Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen stories. In this video, a crazy Karen teacher slaps the autistic child of a veteran and then gets taught a lesson. Let's dive right into the story. So for a bit of background, I would like to start this off by explaining that my daughter is autistic. She's quite far onto the spectrum, and as such it was very easy to get her the diagnosis as young as we did. For the first 6 years of her life, it was advised to us to homeschool her to try and teach her some ways to deal with her emotions and issues that come along with her autism. I put that in quotes as we would never consider them real issues. Anyway, after those 6 years we decided she was ready to be enrolled in an elementary school. She'd be joining just over a year late, considering that most start at 4 or 5, which is not the biggest issue, as usually in that kind of situation the child catches up quite fast. The only problem with that came from her teacher. At this school they stick with the same teacher all day. Said teacher immediately had a problem that she was starting later, making a snide comment to us in an email claiming that she was spoiled. This already rubbed us the wrong way, but we couldn't bear to start something with her new school already, so we just left it. Of course, the school and her teacher are aware of her autism, as otherwise they would not be able to best support her. The principal assured us that she would be cared for and that they have plenty of students just like her. However, it turned out that her teacher was not the most fond of children like her. When she first started school, I was sent overseas to go on a 6-month tour of Afghanistan. My wife was of course here to help her settle in, and I would communicate back and forth whenever I could through letters. My wife would tell me that my daughter was struggling to settle into school. We had sort of seen this coming, but we knew that we would just have to get over that hurdle and condition her to the school life. It was better for her in the long run than to be excluded just at home. From what my teacher was saying, the struggling to settle in was due to her not responding well to discipline and not following instructions, having tantrums when being told to do things. Of course, we believed her, thinking that it sounded reasonable for a child with autism to act that way to their first encounter with such things. When my 6 months were up and I returned home, me and my wife were called into the school, where the teacher explained once again that our daughter was not settling in. "I'm sorry, but I don't think this is the place for her," the teacher sighed. "Sorry? You can't just kick her out," I replied. "It's clear she needs more support." My wife scoffed. "Yeah, you're the teacher that's supposedly giving that extra support. That's why your class is smaller. Your daughter needs much more support than any of us could give. She is such a handful." "Excuse me? Did you just call her a handful?" my wife demanded. The teacher had the nerve to roll her eyes and say, "Well, yes, because that is what she is. Her special needs are too great for this school." "And why is it you're telling us this and not the principal?" I asked. She paused for a moment before continuing, "Well, he is too busy to deal with some minor matters. Please submit the paperwork to pull your daughter from school." "No," my wife replied. "I beg your pardon?" the teacher scoffed. "Well, if she's really being kicked out, you should have to file this on your end. We're not clearing up your trail of ableism." Side note, I was very proud of my wife in this moment. The teacher took a moment before replying, "You will need to do it from your end." "And why is that?" my wife replied. "Well, because this is not official, isn't it? The principal nor the board have agreed, have they? This is all you're doing and you want us to pull her so it won't look bad, right? So no, we will not be pulling our daughter from the school. Thanks for the advice though." After this, my wife got up and stormed out. I was smart enough to follow. This next part I was not around for, as it happened in the school. However, this is the details I got back once the principal found out. The following day at school, my daughter was busy doing her work when her teacher told her to come to the front of the classroom and present her piece. My daughter, perhaps out of line, but I would argue it was just, replied, "Yes, miss, I'm just finishing this sentence first." In response, her teacher stormed over and, I kid you not, slapped her hard. My daughter began crying, so did half the other kids. There was a teaching assistant in the room who was beyond appalled and shouted at the teacher. In response, my daughter's Karen teacher yelled, "That child is just too R slur for this school." I'm sure you can guess what the R stands for. I'm getting angry all over again just writing this. We were phoned up by the principal and being told of the situation. He explained that there would be an investigation and this would most likely be her last day. To be fair to him, he has been amazing through the whole situation, taking our side and supporting our daughter. Me and my wife raced over to the school. By this time it was near the end of the day and the classes were coming out of the building. "You," my wife yelled at the teacher, who made a move to turn around. "Don't even think about going anywhere," I demanded as my daughter ran over to us from another door. We were informed that she has moved classrooms. "There's the little brat!" the teacher yelled. "What did you just say? And do you care to explain why exactly you thought you could punch a child?" I yelled. The teacher stormed over to us, and that look in her eye, I knew that look. "Listen here, I don't want to teach that little girl any longer. She is dumb and she will never have a place here or anywhere." "How dare you?" my wife replied, utterly quiet. "Well, it's the truth. You're a bully," my daughter yelled. Good for her. At this, the teacher snapped her gaze to my child and made a step forward to approach her, raising her hand up. Of course, before she could get any closer, I stepped forward and punched her right in the temple, knocking her out. Given the number of people watching, it was clear it was gonna end very badly for this teacher. The police were called and statements were given, including from my daughter, who was very brave in explaining what had happened to her. The teacher had woken up and was quickly cuffed and taken away. In a matter of days, the story had spread like wildfire through our small town, and so of course the school began a more thorough investigation, even though she would never be teaching here again. During this investigation, a large number of other students came forward and explained their bad experiences with her and how even since my daughter started, she has had it out to get her. That slap was the only time she even physically touched my daughter, but let's just say all that stuff about her not settling in was just bogus. Her teacher would constantly pick on her, discipline her for things she didn't do, and just ignore her when she wanted help. Some parents came forward too, whose children now attend different schools after this teacher informed them of the same things she told us. Well, each of these children also had some sort of disability, which solidified our case. The school issued us a formal apology, of course, and ensured that she is barred from entering the school and working there again. The police added to that, informing us that she was barred from ever teaching again, giving the overwhelming evidence against her. She also faced severe prison time for the assault of a minor and for the proof of the numerous hate crimes against the disabled. My daughter stayed at school and is now getting excellent support and is doing very well. She is top of her class and has made a lovely bubble of friends. I feel great knowing that we've had our justice and that her teacher can no longer harm her. I just hope my daughter is as strong as she was this time to deal with other evils in the world as she grows up. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you enjoyed the title story, please don't forget to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already, because we are getting closer and closer to 130k subscribers. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled DNA confirmed that I, 39 male, have a daughter, 18 female, what now? And yeah, I feel just as you would imagine, but it gets worse. So she lives in the US, I'm in Europe, I don't know how to do this and really need advice. So what happened is that months ago I got a call from a US number. I did not answer since I don't know anyone there, and then again the same day, so I answered ready to yell at some scammer. However, a girl on the other side introduces herself and just says that she thinks I might be her father. It was the first thing she said. "Hi, my name is Jane and I think you might be my father." Fake name. Obviously, I told her I don't have any children and that she has the wrong number. But then she drops a name I have not heard in, you guessed it, 18 years. So back around that time, I was in the US for a year on a job exchange with our sister company. I met the woman there and we hooked up over maybe a few months. I remember buying condoms after meeting her, but I cannot remember if we used them every single time. Anyway, I gave her my non-US phone number but never heard from her again. The girl on the phone asks me if my name is OP and I freak out and almost hang up on her. She tells me more about her mother and I just sit there like an idiot. She had found my name and number in her mother's diary and now as she turned 18, she wanted to contact me. She lives with her relatives now. Since her mother is unable to take care of herself for some reason, I still don't know the details there. She asked me if I'd be willing to do an ancestry DNA test and even offered to pay for it. She ends by saying that I should think about it and ask if she can call me again. I just say sure and we hang up. I swear, I was about to faint right there and then. The whole conversation only lasted like 5 minutes. I ended up taking the test and well, we talked a few more times. The test took forever, but yesterday she sent me a screenshot of her profile matching 50% to mine. I mean, that's just it, right? We have not spoken since, just messaged some. I lied and told her that I've been busy and we'll talk later, which now makes me feel like an ass. Up until this point I've kept it together, holding on to the thought that I'm probably not her dad, but now I cannot deny it. It's probably been half my life since I last cried. I have not told anyone this and I was kind of hoping the DNA test would come back negative and then I wouldn't have to. How to even break this to my family? I just know they will all want her number so they can call her, and then they would start flying over to see her or bringing her here. They are really pushy like that. So my mom is gonna freak out, by the way. I don't see my family more than a few times a year, but we all get together during Easter. Should I do it then with all of them at once or one at a time? I have a picture of Jane, but not much more info than what I have written here. I am the youngest sibling, and now I suddenly have the oldest of the cousins in the next generation, and I never wanted kids at all. Honestly, I just don't like them and I hate being tied up. I even had a vasectomy since then, and that's the easy part. The real problem is what to say to Jane. Can some sane person give an example of what to say? I've promised to call her tomorrow. Has anyone discovered that they have an unknown child? If so, what did you do? How did it go? How did you connect? What happened when you met her for the first time? What did your family say? I'm a bit embarrassed by this, but is there any risk of me having to pay child support retroactively? I can probably afford it, but I really don't want to. Added to the story, I apologize for the abomination of a text above. I blame the alcohol. Some seems to have the impression that I and/or my family are wealthy, and this is not the case. I wrote in a comment that knowing my family, they would probably rent a private jet and fly her there. That was a joke commenting on what they would wanna do, not what they would do. No, I'm not wealthy either. In the post I wrote, I can probably afford it, but I really don't want to. And I meant that I would hate to suddenly have something like 10% of my savings left overnight. Just guessing here, no idea what the actual sum would have been. I'm sure anyone here would consider that factor. Anyway, someone said the limit is 3 years back. I did not know that. And yes, I can be an a-hole sometimes, but I'm not some monster. The money question was a question, not the question, and yes, I've had my number for a long time, never had a reason to change it. Anyway, we had our first video call today, and it was a long conversation. I had a list of things to bring up, mostly from suggestions here, so I'm ever thankful for that. Most of it was quite personal for both of us, so I won't write it here. Anyway, it boils down to what we both want to continue to stay in touch and get to know each other. We also want to meet at some point, even if we don't know when yet. Her family knows of me and they will join a call in the future, so I can speak to them as well. I will hold off on telling my family for a while, but I will probably tell them one at a time. And now we got an update to the story from August of 2024. Hello everybody, it was really interesting to read about other experiences in the comments and DMs. It's crazy what DNA tests have done in recent times. Some wrote that Jane is probably just a kid looking for her roots, and you were absolutely right. I've been getting a steady stream of DMs since my last post. Most have been nice, just asking for an update. However, there were also the absolute nutcases who cannot read and told me to drown myself. Hi to you too. Jane and I continued to talk after my last post. Mostly about her life, her mother, the family trees, etc. I never thought I would connect with her like I did. She is a very intelligent and mature young woman my family knows now, and it went better than expected. My mom and sister still went a bit ape-crap, but my dad knocked them out with a large club he always carries with him. To the nutcases, no, that last bit did not actually happen. Funny thing, my brother-in-law actually distracted my mom by reminding her that she has made sweaters for all the other grandkids, but now she's behind on one. All of them understandably wanted to call her, but my daughter, yes, it's pretty cool to be able to say that, and I had already planned to have that call the following day. And it really went well. We all made introductions, explained everything that had happened, and that we planned for me to meet her by myself before anything. And guess what? We did meet. I flew for over a 10-day stay since I'm on leave and she's working during the summer. That way we could hang out in the evenings and weekend and I could go full tourist during the day. It was just surreal from the start. I landed at the very same airport I left from almost 2 decades ago and she was there to meet me together with her aunt. I cannot describe in words what it was like to hug her for the very first time. I had seen her many times in video calls, but she was just so beautiful in real life, I started crying. I met so many people in the first couple days, I cannot remember the names of half of them. I gave her the sweater from my mom, a hand-drawn family tree from my niece, and a gift I made myself, but I won't tell what that one was. Anyway, while I still don't agree with the Georgia weather, I had a blast during the days just walking around town. I went to Jane's workplace almost every day and pretended to be a regular customer, and we had lunch and dinners either alone or with the rest of her mother's side of the family. All of them were so nice and welcoming to me. I visited their house every day but chose to stay at a hotel since I didn't want to be a bother or impose myself too hard on Jane's life. Obviously, Jane and I talked a lot about anything and everything, but mostly about her upbringing and her mom. I mentioned in the previous post that her mother was not able to care for Jane. I did not press that subject much at first, but it was unavoidable after a while. I won't get into all the details, but her mother is sick and has lost some cognitive functions. She recognizes Jane and some family members well enough, others not so much. We went to visit the facility where she lives, and Jane introduced me by name and not as her father. She sadly did not recognize me, so I stayed in the background for the remainder of our stay. Seeing a woman not much older than myself in such a state was a somber experience, so yeah, that was me rambling a bit about what happened after my last post. There was obviously a lot more, but most of it is deeply personal and emotional, and I won't go through it here. I'm back home and we are keeping communications open. I'm definitely gonna fly Jane over here at some point when life allows it. But other than that, we have no specific plans for the future. The next one is titled, "She Stole My Easter Eggs." A similar story I saw recently reminded me of this. It happened in 2015, so pre-pandemic. By the way guys, I love how you have to say pre-pandemic even though 2015 was so long ago. But then again, this pandemic is going on for pretty long already as well. Anyway, the day before Easter, my wife and I helped our kids make colored eggs. Some we dyed, some we painted, and others were just plastic with candy. But my kids doodled little faces on them for fun. On Easter morning, my wife and I went to my parents' house because they live on the edge of the city right next to some woods. And they've got a good 2-acre property with a few scattered apple trees, a garden, a play structure for the kids my dad hand-built, and some decent-sized bushes. Perfect for hiding eggs in. We spent a good hour in the morning placing the eggs in clever but also easy to find places for the kids. We also invited a friend of my wife, who was a single mom with a little girl, to join in. And she was overjoyed that we invited her. We took a little break to have a coffee and chat after hiding the eggs, as we had planned to go out looking for them at noon since it was a little chilly that morning. However, my mom suddenly came to us and said there was a lady with kids she had never seen before hunting for the eggs in the backyard. And her kids were using the baskets we had set aside for our own egg hunt. They had been left sitting by the garden for when the hunt was to start, and those thieving little brats just took them without a care. I told my wife to pull out her phone and start recording just in case. My wife and I have both dealt with entitled people long before seeing stories on Reddit, so having video evidence can really help. We then went outside and I demanded to know just what the hell this woman was thinking. The Karen mom was startled when I called out to her, but then got mad at us when I told her to put the eggs back, as she was not invited. Since this was 7 years ago, I'll have to paraphrase most of it as my memory can be pretty bad at times. Me: "Hey, what do you think you're doing here? This is private property." Karen: "Huh, don't sneak up on me, what is wrong with you?" Me: "What's wrong with me? You are trespassing on private property and letting your kids steal our eggs." By this point her 2 crotch goblins had run to hide behind her and they were blowing raspberries at me. Me: "Give those eggs back, they are not yours." Karen: "What's wrong with you? They are just little kids. I could not afford to give them a good Easter this year. And when we saw all of the eggs you were hiding, I just thought maybe you could share. Besides, they're just eggs, go to the store and get more." Me: "My family lovingly colored and painted those eggs all day yesterday and you'll give them back, or so help me." And then the Karen actually slapped me across the face and stomped on my foot at the same time. I got bullied a fair bit as a kid, so it did not faze me nearly as much as she thought, plus she could not stomp or hit very hard at all, so all that just made me angrier. And I'm pretty sure she realized she badly effed up because she started backing away. Me: "Last chance, return the eggs now." Karen: "No, my babies got them first." I was done with this crap and turned to tell my family to just call the police. The Karen started shouting at me that we cannot call the police over some stupid eggs. My dad then went and blocked the side gate, which is how the Karen had gotten in the first place. We don't know how she was spying on us since she was not even a neighbor to my parents. But when we refused to let her leave, she started screaming hysterically that we were illegally detaining her. The police arrived in about 10 minutes and by then the Karen had huddled with her kids on the bench by the garden. My wife showed the cops the video of the Karen slapping me and they quickly told her she was under arrest and forced her kids to give back the eggs and baskets. The Karen started screaming that it was not fair and she just wanted a happy Easter for her kids. Her little crotch goblins did not make things easy for the police either, as they tried to hit them for arresting their mom. We made a few statements and the police carted off the Karen and her family. Then we re-hid all of the eggs. Which took longer because we had to double check any places we had already hidden eggs to see if they were not there. The kids were all super upset that someone tried to steal their eggs too, and it took some work to calm them down. But they all still got their Easter egg hunt and all was well. The Karen though more or less got off easy. She pled guilty and only got a month in jail and a fine, and during court I found out from her soon-to-be ex-husband that they were in the middle of a divorce that Karen had been intentionally dragging out. After court we did not see or hear from any of them again, but I'd like to think that the situation gave the dad the edge he needed in the divorce. And it's become a funny story we like to share with people once in a while. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much and I will see you again tomorrow.